folks, Scott here with my May 2023 My Monthly Hero Kit. Of course, our kits come in these 8x10 zippered plastic pouches. Very handy for putting projects in. Let's dig in and see what's in our kit this month. Here's our backer card. A few little suggestions. Classic kit, premium kit. And we have our clear stamp set. This is a 6x8 stamp set. Looks like we are going for a bicycle ride this month. A couple of bicycle rides, it looks like. Very interesting stamp set. These are layering bicycles. So it looks like this is one stamp, this is one stamp. So those two make one bike. This is a stamp, and this is a stamp. And then you have the spokes. There's the spokes of a wheel there. These spokes are already there. So two bikes, a number of different ephemera to go along with that. We've got a little dog and a little cat, lots of flowers and hearts, balloons, and a flag. There's a little box that goes on the back of the bike, a little briefcase that looks like some mail, food, apples. Those are those little streamers that stick out of your handlebars, a little bit of a fence, some grass, some clouds, a little bit of everything here. And some nice puns. Let the good times roll. Enjoy the ride. May your year ahead bring many adventures. Keep calm and pedal on. That's for all of our Great Britain friends. We've got so many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It looks like about a dozen sentiments here. That's our 8x10 stamp set. Of course, that is accompanied by dies. We've got 20 coordinating dies. These cut out, looks like a bit of everything. We've got both bikes and all of the little ephemera, flags, balloons. This is a little grass die that looks like it will cut out this grass stamp. We've got the clouds here. Looks like the only thing we don't have here is the picket fence. So 20 coordinating dies. And then we get this flower stencil. This is a 6" by 6" flower stencil. Look at that. That's very, very pop art. Very Peter Max. A flower stencil, 6x6, to complement all of our bicycles. Then we get 3 sheets each of glitter paper in rose gold and aqua. Great glitter paper. This is nice thick cardstock, aqua and rose gold glitter paper. And then 3 pigment ink cubes. I don't think I have any Hero Arts pigment ink, which is of course permanent and takes a little bit longer to dry. So that's actually quite excellent for embossing. And of course, then we've got clear embossing powder to go with that. That's everything in the classic kit. Let's open up the premium kit extras. So this month we get, ooh, look at that holographic paper. This month we get, this is a set of trifold fancy dies. So you can put those dies together and make a little trifold card. Got a little girl on a bike, a dog, mailbox. Looks like that's a bench, a lovely tree, and a swing. All of these recede into the background, so this is further away, closer, and closest. Notice how the picket fence gets smaller in the second one. Very nice. And then 2 sheets of holographic paper. Look at that. This is nice cardstock. This one is just kind of plain holographic. This, of course, looks like a shattered glass holographic. 2 sheets. Those are both, of course, 5.5 by 8.5. And then 4 sheets of Bicycle Hero transfers. So there are 4 sheets of the same here. These are, Hero Arts is certainly getting into their transfers. All 4 sheets are the same. Very pink. Thank heavens there's at least a couple of blue bikes on these. All of these are transfers. Gives you a little rub-on stick to go with that. But then that's everything in our Hero Arts kit for May 2023. We've got our classic kit. We've got the premium kit. I tell you, whoever whoever designed this set had much fancier bicycles than I did when I was a kid. Let the good times roll. And here's my 10 cards for the month. It looks like everything's on a white card base, one Arctic blue card base on the top there. As usual, I will be making these first 5 cards using just the ingredients in the classic kit. So I wanted to dig in and see how those color layering bicycles lined up and how well they worked. I have to say this bicycle lined up quite easily, and we have a really good day with a little action going on our little bicycle there. Have a really good day. That's a really nice pun. I started with the bike body. I stamped that in the teal pigment ink included in the kit. Then I stamped the wheels, seat, hand grips with Hero Arts charcoal core ink, and the spokes with Hero Arts granite core ink. I die cut the bike with the included die, and I decided I wanted a different color for my handlebar basket. So I stamped the basket portion lightly on a scrap of ivory cardstock using frayed burlap distress oxide ink. I fussy cut the basket out and glued it over the teal basket on the bike. I think that's a nice little touch. Really big bang for your buck. I stamped and die cut the grass on a piece of Hero Arts kiwi cardstock using the green apple reactive ink, and I added another grassy border behind that using a Lawn Fawn grassy border die and more kiwi cardstock. I die cut a piece of blue watercolor pattern paper with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die and stamped the sentiment using Hero Arts Intense Black ink and embossed that with some of the clear embossing powder. I added a thin blue glitter mat behind that, trimmed my grass pieces to size using the stitched rectangle die so the stitches go all the way around, and I glued them all down to a white A2 card base. I attached this bike to the card with a mini action wobbler. Offsetting the wobbler on the back wheel adds a great deal of action to the bike without even having to flick the bike by hand. Have a really good day. Doing. And there's another color layering bike in this stamp set. This only has 2 pieces, so it should be easier to line up than the first one. And we've got Keep Calm and Pedal On. I really do like the perspective on this bike stamp. I stamped this bike on some white cardstock with the Hero Arts charcoal and granite core inks, and then I added some details with a red and black Pigma Micron pen and some touches of a white gel pen as well. I think this feels pretty metallic for just stamping. I cut a piece of 110-pound white cardstock to 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches and dry embossed the stencil on that. I really like dry embossing stencils. It really stretches your stencil's usage a great deal, and it's quite beautiful as a background on this card. I added a thin mat of the pink glitter cardstock behind the embossed piece and glued them both down to a white A2 card base. I stamped the sentiment on a scrap of white cardstock using the pink pigment ink cube from the kit and embossed it with the clear embossing powder as well. I die cut the stamped sentiment with a Lawn Fawn Everyday Sentiments banner die. These sentiments are all created to work with most sentiment dies. And I folded the flag ends before mounting it to the card front with foam tape. The bicycle is mounted with foam tape as well, and this whole card feels very spring-like, quite comforting. I love those embossed flowers in the background. Keep calm and pedal on. Now, fortunately, there are a few stamps in this set that don't necessarily have anything to do with bicycles. So for our next card, we've got a happy birthday card. Straightforward, simple, colorful, perfectly appropriate for a birthday. I stamped the round and the heart balloons using my Misty stamping tool and the fruit punch, creamsicle, lemon drop, green apple, splash, and grape slush reactive inks. I masked off the strings to stamp the balloons and masked off the balloons to stamp the strings with granite core ink. I die cut the stamped panel with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, added a thin red mat, and glued both to a white card base. The sentiment is stamped with the Fruit Punch reactive ink and embossed with the clear embossing powder. For a little touch of bling, I die cut a scrap of metallic red cardstock with the smallest heart die in the kit and glued that next to the sentiment. I did add some highlights to the balloons with a white gel pen, and we have an all-purpose birthday card. I'm sorry, you're not getting a bike this year. Happy birthday! So I was convinced that I could turn the profile bike stamps into a tandem bike. It took me a couple of tries. I even did one here that had 3 wheels. Oops, I don't think that's quite right, but it actually looks really cool. That's not a real tandem bike, though. I think this works pretty well. We've got Let the Good Times Roll with a tandem bike there with only 2 wheels. That's supposed to be how it is. So I stamped the main bike stamp twice on some masking paper and trimmed away the front one on the one and the back on the other to join the 2 parts together. So this is one of those masks. I just cut away the back wheel of the front so I could stamp the back bike over the front bike. Pretty easy with some careful mask cutting. It was a little fussy getting the handlebars on the back bike so that they didn't encroach on the seat on the front bike, but I think this feels pretty good. I extended the chain guard on the front bike with masking and a blending brush, and I added an extra center support, that bar right there behind that flower, again with more masking and ink blending. I thought that completed that space between the bikes there and was a continuation of that pipe. I stamped the seat and hand grips with Fruit Punch reactive ink and the wheels with charcoal and granite core inks and the streamers with the yellow pigment ink from the kit. Finally, I used a blue, red, and brown Pigma Micron pen for some detail on the bikes, and I added a portion of the box stamp to the back with the bundle of food and wine using frayed burlap Distress Oxide ink. I die cut the stamped panel with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, added a little bit thicker blue glitter mat, and glued those to a white card base. I used the grass die in our kit and the stitched rectangle die to cut a piece of green cardstock, and I ink blended the negative of the Lawn Fawn grass die from card number 1. I ink blended that on the bottom of that die cut piece and glued that into place. The sentiment is stamped with splash reactive ink and embossed with some clear embossing powder. I die cut the 2 clouds from white cardstock 3 times each, glued them together for some extra dimension, and ink blended a little splash ink on their bottom edges before gluing them to the card front. I die cut a bunch of yellow and white flowers using the dies in our kit, added little inked centers and gave them a little bit of shaping and glued them to the card front. Now, I did stamp the basket of flowers in the yellow pigment ink actually in the basket, but they were a little too blobby to quite tell what they were, so I just glued a couple of the die-cut flowers on the basket. This would make a great anniversary card. Let the good times roll. We're biking together. As you can tell, I wasn't particularly excited about ink blending on this stencil in the classic kit, but I did take some red glitter paste and I used that with the flower stencil for a bright graphic and sparkly background. That gives us Enjoy the Ride with that great red. That's our stencil right there with red glitter paste. So I stamped the perspective bike with embossing and watermark ink, and I embossed that with the Hero Arts red embossing powder. I stamped the seat and the wheels with the intense black ink and embossed those with clear embossing powder, and then die cut the bike out. I stamped and embossed the flag exactly the same and die cut that out as well. I die cut a panel of white cardstock with the Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, stamped the sentiment with intense black ink and embossed that with clear embossing powder. I added a mat of black glitter cardstock and glued those to a white A2 card base. I trimmed the glitter stencil piece, so this is our full glitter stencil piece. I trimmed that down to fit inside the stitched lines of the back panel, and I glued that flat to the card front. Now I tried flipping that around and see if this was on the other side so that I could put the flag on the back of the bike. That just didn't feel right with the bike over here, the sentiment up here. So I just decided to put the flag on the front fork of the bike instead. That may not be very practical, but it looks good with this arrangement. I like this monochrome card a lot, though I wish my reds were a little bit closer in color, but hey, you can't beat that sparkle and that shine. C'est la vie. Enjoy the ride. So there you go. Already, that's my 5 cards using only the materials in the classic kit. Now we can dig into the premium supplies, which feature that 3-piece trifold fancy dies. Let's see what happens if we connect them all together. And we have our card. May your year ahead bring many adventures. One more. Happy birthday. Now, that's a trifold card for you. I managed to cut these 4 panels so that there was only one hinge. So that means die cutting that first panel on the back of an A2 card base, the second panel on the inside front of that same card base, the third panel, then again, on the back of an A2 card base, and then the stitched clouds from the inside on the front of an A2 card base, so that when they're all folded together, you are getting the front die cut of all 4 of those layers. The only added hinge is there on the left. Really thin hinge, gluing those 2 pieces together for a fun, great big trifold card. That was fun. I enjoyed that. So I masked and stamped the sentiments using the teal pigment ink and embossed them all with the clear embossing powder. I die cut a piece of Hero Arts Arctic cardstock with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die and glued it behind the clouds to complete the card. Plenty of room to write your message on the back here. These die cuts are so detailed, I didn't think they needed any embellishments or color. Really sharp, done up all in white. Now naturally, this card stands on its own, and I love the dimension you get when the layers are relaxed and opened up a little. So it's kind of a little more like that. It's hard to show you that straight up and down, but this is great to display on your desk. And I liked splitting up that 2-sentence sentiment to make 2 stamps. May your year ahead bring many adventures, and happy birthday. These are really nice dies. You can use them all together like this or individually as you like. I suppose you could even cut the ponytail off of the back of her head here and turn that into a boy. The possibilities are kind of endless with these fun trifold fancy dies. Now, when I was trying to think of things to do with the glitter cardstocks in our kit, I realized that our pigment inks should actually work on top of the glitter cardstock. So I did one glitter panel with the pink and yellow pigment ink, and they were a little bit light in color, so I figured I could use the unicorn white pigment ink as a base for the colors to brighten them up. Well, that worked extremely well, as you can see here, but truly, the pink pigment faded out to white fairly quickly. You can see that all of this white here was pink at one time. It all faded to white, but that yellow pigment ink is something else altogether. That's a very juicy ink cube. It's quite vibrant. It just might be the brightest yellow ink in my stash. So I reapplied the yellow ink over the faded out pink ink for this great glitter background, sending a basket full of wishes. So I die cut the 3rd trifold die from some Hero Arts pitch black cardstock and added a rub-on blue bike on the top. Those rub-ons work quite well on black. I added some of the yellow flower rub-ons as well. I stamped the sentiment with splash reactive ink and embossed that with the clear embossing powder. I glued the black panel to the stenciled glitter background and trimmed that to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So we've got a little thin white frame around that. I glued them all to an A2 white card base. I love that stenciled glitter sky. Sending a basket full of wishes. That was a fun use for that glitter cardstock in our kit. What about that holographic cardstock in the premium kit? So for our next card we have a cyclotherapy card. There's a good pun for the month. I printed this sentiment on a piece of white cardstock using my Silhouette software and the simple Courier font. After figuring out the placement of everything, I die cut the printed panel with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die, and I added another rub-on blue bike to the left side of that panel. Now I cut the broken holographic cardstock into small strips and added them as little motion lines to our bike. I glued that panel to the smooth holographic mat and then down to a white card base. My piano tuner at work is actually an avid bicyclist, and not only does he hold his bike in the highest regard, but he does claim that bicycling is the best therapy he has ever experienced. Cyclotherapy. This does give us a great sense of movement on this card. Cyclotherapy. Of course, when I was being taught how to ride a bike, I just remember my older sister saying, keep pedaling, keep pedaling, keep pedaling, keep pedaling. This is my tribute to my learning how to ride a bike. And we have, to keep your balance, you must keep moving. That is an appropriate sentiment for anyone at any age. I did do another blue rub-on bike on a piece of 40-pound vellum, and I die cut that with a Hero Arts nesting circle infinity die. I created this sentiment using my Silhouette software, again with the Courier font, and printed that directly on my white A2 card base. I attached the vellum with little dots of glue behind the bicycle. This is a great encouragement card. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. Simple and right to the point. So my last card was actually inspired by Pocono Pam and the card she created for day 2 of this kit's sneak peek. So it was back just before the beginning of the month. I had to ante up that design a little bit, and I made an interactive card. Ride until the wheels fall off, and keep going, and just keep going, and just keep going, and just keep going, and just keep going. I saw Pam's card that had this same die cut in the center of a circle with lovely stripes behind it. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun if she could actually bicycle right around that opening, right until your wheels fall off? So I started with 2 Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die cut panels. There's one right behind that, and my Hero Arts nesting circles infinity dies. I die cut the circular opening in one of those panels. That's actually 3-inch circle. And I used the yellow pigment ink to lightly stencil the flowers onto that panel. I die cut a larger circle and colored that with my yellow pigment ink. I die cut another even larger circle to be our spinner, and I stamped little arrows on the sides of that. That's using My Favorite Things little interactive labels stamp set. I used charcoal core ink for those, and I punched little notches around the edge to help grip the spinner so your finger didn't just slide right off of it. I attached the spinner to the other die cut panel with a brad, and I centered it to the left side of the card. So I tried to put the right side of that circle to the right side of the cut panel and sticking out to the left. I die cut the bicyclist from pitch black cardstock, and I die cut the bottom of that with the matching circle die and glued that to my yellow circle. So then I temporarily taped the front panel to the back panel that had the spinner on it and figured out where to attach the yellow circle to the spinning circle. Just don't glue too close to the brad in the center. I stamped the sentiment on the front panel with intense black ink and embossed it with a clear embossing powder. I used thin foam tape to attach the two rectangular panels together. That gave a little bit of space for our spinner to spin. I cut a piece of pitch black cardstock to 4 inches by 5 3/4 and glued that to the front of a white A2 card base. I then used some normal thickness foam tape to attach the action panel on top of the black mat. I needed to have some room here for the finger to grab the edge of our spinner. Now, I wasn't going to use this sentiment to begin with. I thought it was a little odd, but it works quite well on an interactive card like this. I guess you might equate this to a hamster wheel, but I kept thinking of it as a globe of death, those circus and carnival stunt things with motorcycles spinning around inside of a steel mesh globe. Needless to say, this ride could go on forever and ever and ever, or at least as long until the wheels fall off. Ride until the wheels fall off. And that's our springtime bicycle adventure. Now, despite there being 9 cards with bicycles, I think we have a pretty decent variety of looks and styles here, even a couple of interactive cards as well. I managed to use most, but not all, of the stamps in our stamp set. The animal silhouettes and the fence and the hearts and flowers went unused, but I did use some of those dies. We used the flower stencil. I used the flower stencil on 4 cards here. And of course, the clear embossing powder. I tell you, that clear embossing powder could not have come at a better time. I was on the last dregs of my clear embossing powder, and the final bits had become adulterated with specks and spots of foreign material. So I simply dumped out the old and refilled my container with the new batch of clear embossing powder. And that, it almost filled that halfway full. Could not have come at a better time. I did use all of the trifold fancy dies, a number of the rub-ons, and even some of the holographic cardstocks. I think I gave this kit a pretty good run for the money, even if I didn't use every single one of those stamps. Now, this classic kit is still available at Hero Arts, though the premium kit has sold out. I don't know. If you're ready to break your bike out of the cold storage and venture forth in this glorious springtime, grab a kit for yourself before it sells out too. If you do go shopping at Hero Arts, please use my links listed in the description below. It is dearly appreciated. Actually helps support this channel at no cost to you. Thank you so very much for sharing your time with me here today. Let me know what you think of this kit and what cards are your favorite. I always appreciate hearing from you, and I'm thrilled to be part of your crafting adventures. Remember to like me, list me, pin me, post me, share me with all of your friends. Don't run with scissors. I'm sending you and yours all my love, all my light, and happy crafting. For more detailed information and better pictures, please visit my website at cardcutups.com.